You've probably already reached for the cortisone cream in the medicine cabinet the second you saw that raw patch on your dog. It might be making things worse, not better, because sealing moisture under an ointment is the one thing a hot spot never forgives. A sore like that can go from the size of a dime to the size of your palm in one afternoon, and there's a reason it moves that fast. Plus a fix that works with the skin instead of against it, and one detail near the end that decides whether it heals in days or drags on for weeks. I've spent more than 20 years treating dogs, and a hot spot is one of the things that walks through my clinic door almost every week once the weather turns warm. Before we get into it, tell me in the comments your dog's name and how old they are. It helps to picture the exact dog this is for while we go. If you're thinking you should have caught this sooner, let that go. A hot spot can turn a small red patch into a raw circle that weeps within a few hours, faster than almost any owner could catch it, even one who checks their dog every single day. This isn't neglect. It's one of the fastest moving skin problems a dog can have, and the fact that you're here, watching this, looking for the right way to help instead of just grabbing whatever's under the sink, already puts you ahead of most owners. Most people treat a hot spot like it's a skin infection that showed up out of nowhere, and I understand why. It looks infected, wet, red, and it usually smells. But in my clinic, that's almost never how it starts. Something itches first. A flea, an ear infection, allergies, a mat pulling at the skin after a bath, and the dog's own mouth does more damage in an hour than whatever caused the itch ever could. That's why a thick cream that just seals the surface can backfire. It traps the moisture underneath and gives the skin nowhere to breathe. The real fix has to do two things at once: calm whatever is itching and let the skin dry out enough to actually close. And to be clear from the start, nothing here promises to erase a hot spot overnight or guarantee it never comes back. What it does is calm the skin and support real healing in a matter of days, which for most dogs is enough to turn this around. Here's what's actually happening under the fur. Something starts an itch, a flea bite, an allergy, damp fur after a swim, and the dog licks and bites at it to get relief. The saliva and the constant friction break down the skin's outer layer within hours, not days. Once that layer opens, the spot turns moist, the bacteria that live on the surface start multiplying in that warm, wet pocket, and the nerve endings underneath fire even harder than before. So the dog licks more, not less. Vets call this acute moist dermatitis, which is really just a fancy way of saying the skin broke down fast from licking, not from some outside infection that snuck in. It's the same pattern as scratching a mosquito bite until it bleeds. The relief lasts 2 seconds and the damage lasts a week. That loop is exactly why the fix has to work from two directions at once. One part calms the itch signal from inside the body over the next few days. The other part protects the raw skin on the outside right now, without trapping moisture underneath the way a thick ointment does. Miss either half and the loop just keeps running. Age changes how fast this moves too. A puppy's skin is thinner and heals quicker, but it also breaks down faster under the same licking, so a spot that looks small on a young dog can still surprise you overnight. An older dog often has slower circulation and a slower repair process, which is part of why a senior dog's hot spot can take a little longer to close, even once the fix is working exactly as it should. Coat matters here too. Dogs with heavy double coats like golden retrievers, labs, and huskies trap heat and moisture against the skin far more than a short-coated dog does, which is part of why they show up in my clinic with hot spots so much more often, especially right after swimming or a bath that didn't get fully dried out. Every dog licks now and then. That's just grooming, and it doesn't mean anything is wrong. What's different is a dog who keeps coming back to the exact same spot every 20 minutes, ignoring the toy in front of them and the walk they usually beg for, just to get back to that one patch. That's the early warning, and it's also the best moment to start, because the fix works fastest right here, before anything has broken open. Next comes the spot itself, usually a small red patch about the size of a coin, a little damp to the touch, showing up under an ear, on a hip, near the base of the tail, or anywhere on a front leg the dog can reach easily with their mouth. That's a hot spot forming in real time, and starting tonight's protocol now is what keeps it from becoming anything bigger. If you're seeing something further along already, a wet or crusted patch with the fur matted flat around it, and a smell you can notice from a few feet away, that's a hot spot that's already losing the fight against the bacteria on the surface. It still responds to the same fix. It just needs you to start tonight, not this weekend. Watch for the spot showing up in a spot your dog can't easily see for themselves too. Low on the back near the tail, or along the side of the neck under a collar. Owners sometimes miss these because the dog isn't obviously licking at them the way they would a paw, but a quick check with your hand over any area that feels warmer or damp than the fur around it will usually find it before it spreads. Now that you can tell exactly which stage your dog is at, it's worth having this on hand for next time too, since hot spots have a habit of coming back. Subscribing costs nothing and keeps this kind of practical fix ready for whenever it happens again. And a like just helps this reach more owners dealing with the same raw patch tonight. A dog who's dealt with this before sometimes shows a fourth pattern worth knowing. A spot that keeps reopening in the exact same place every few weeks, even after it looks healed. That usually means whatever triggered it the first time, fleas, an allergy, a recurring ear issue, is still active underneath, and the kitchen fix will keep closing the surface without ever getting ahead of it until that root cause gets addressed too. Left alone, this follows a pattern I see constantly. A small itchy patch becomes a raw open circle within a day because the licking never stops on its own. Give it longer and the open skin invites more bacteria in, and the area spreads outward as the dog keeps chasing the itch to the edges of the sore. Give it several days untreated and deeper layers of skin can get pulled in, at which point clipping and an oral antibiotic become part of the picture, something no amount of sardines or coconut oil can undo on their own. A dog at that stage is usually not sleeping well either, and often eating less because the spot simply won't leave them alone. There's one more thing worth knowing before you jump to the fix. If the spot is already bigger than a couple of inches, growing hour by hour, bleeding, or your dog won't let you touch the area at all, that's past what tonight's routine can handle on its own. And it's worth a same-day call to your vet rather than waiting to see how the kitchen fix does first. I think about Bailey a lot. A 5-year-old golden retriever who came in with a hot spot the size of a silver dollar behind her ear after a lake swim. The kind of case I see almost weekly once the weather warms up. Her owner had already been using a thick antibiotic cream and it was sealing the moisture in instead of letting the spot dry out. We switched her to sardines mixed into dinner, a thin layer of coconut oil after cleaning the area, and a soft cone at night so she couldn't reopen it while she slept. Within 6 days, the spot was dry and mostly grown back over with fur, and Bailey was back to sleeping through the night without scratching at her ear every hour. So here's what actually goes in the bowl. Canned sardines packed in water, or a plain fish body oil if your dog turns their nose up at sardines. Gives you the omega-3 fatty acids that calm inflammation from the inside, working through the bloodstream rather than the surface. For a small dog under 20 pounds, that's a quarter to half a sardine mixed into food once a day, or around 300 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA if you're using an oil. A medium dog, 20 to 50 pounds, gets one whole sardine, or about 500 milligrams. A large dog over 50 pounds gets 1 to 2 sardines, or close to 1,000 milligrams. Start at half that amount on the first day just to see how the stomach handles it. Then move up to the full daily amount from there. This isn't an overnight fix, and I want to be honest about that. Most owners tell me they notice calmer skin within 3 to 7 days of adding it steadily, not the next morning. One note on the oil itself. Plain fish body oil, the kind sold specifically for dogs, works better here than a random bottle from the human supplement aisle, since some of those are flavored or blended with other oils your dog doesn't need. If you're using sardines instead, water packed is the version to reach for every time. Never one packed in oil or seasoned for people. Now for the outside half, because the bowl alone won't close a spot that's already open. Melt a small amount of coconut oil, about a quarter teaspoon for something paw-sized, up to a full teaspoon for a spot closer to the size of your palm. Clean the area first with cool water and a soft cloth. Pat it dry, then smooth on a thin layer, not a thick coat, once or twice a day. The reason this works where a lot of tube creams don't is simple. It's safe if your dog licks a little of it off, which matters a great deal for a dog you can't realistically stop from reaching that spot every few minutes. If your dog won't sit still for anything touching that area yet, start with just a sardine in the bowl for a day or two. Let it feel like part of dinner, and bring in the coconut oil once they're a little more settled. And if your dog is the type who swallows food whole without chewing, break the sardine into small pieces and mix it through the kibble instead of dropping it in as one piece, so it actually gets eaten slowly rather than gulped down in one bite. For a puppy, stay at the low end of the size range above and check with your vet before starting any oil, since a young digestive system handles new fats less predictably. For a senior dog already on a joint supplement with fish oil in it, don't stack a second full dose on top. Just add the sardine and count that as the daily omega-3 instead of adding both. If the spot is bigger, on the larger end of palm size or beyond, twice a day with the coconut oil is usually where you want to stay rather than pushing to 3 or 4 applications. Since more isn't what speeds this along, consistency is. A spot that's already drying out generally needs less oil than one that's still weeping, so you can ease off the amount slightly as things visibly improve over that first week. A few mistakes I see often are worth naming so you can skip them. Buying flavored or oil-packed sardines instead of ones packed in water. The extra salt and added oil aren't worth it and can upset a sensitive stomach. Reaching for a human fish oil capsule meant for joint pain that's loaded with extra additives instead of a plain one made for dogs. Taking the cone off after one good day because the spot looks better, only to have the licking start right back up and undo 4 days of progress. And applying coconut oil to a spot that's still dirty or matted, which just traps whatever was on the fur underneath the oil instead of letting it heal. A quick word on what to leave in the cabinet. Garlic, onion, grapes and raisins, xylitol, which often shows up on labels as birch sugar, cooked bones, and concentrated essential oils like tea tree oil have no place anywhere near this. And tea tree oil in particular is not safe on broken skin, even though some owners still reach for it thinking it's natural. Too much fish oil can loosen the stool or add weight over time, and too much coconut oil can upset a sensitive stomach. So stick with the amounts above rather than assuming more works faster. Here's the part almost every owner skips, and it's the one that actually decides whether this heals in days or drags on for weeks. None of this works if the licking never stops. The fish oil and the coconut oil are fighting a losing battle against a tongue that reopens the wound every 20 minutes. A soft cone, an old t-shirt taped loosely around the middle, or a sock taped over a paw during the worst few days is what actually lets the skin close, while the bowl and the coconut oil do their part underneath it. It's also worth saying plainly that plenty of hot spot sprays on a pet store shelf are priced like medicine and work like a bandage. Some are little more than drying alcohol in a nicer bottle, and a few genuinely sting on broken skin, which makes a dog lick harder, not less. That's not some big conspiracy. It's just easier to sell a spray than to explain a 2-part routine that actually addresses what started the itch in the first place. One more thing before you go add anything to the bowl tonight. Don't throw sardines, coconut oil, and some other new food in all at once. A dog's stomach handles one new addition at a time far better than 3, and stacking them right when your dog is already stressed from the sore is a good way to end up with an upset stomach on top of everything else. Start with the sardine for 2 or 3 days. Bring in the coconut oil routine once that's settled. Then keep both going steadily rather than swapping things out week to week once you see the spot healing. It's worth knowing that hot spots rarely show up on their own. Fleas, food, or environmental allergies and chronic ear infections are usually what's driving them. So a dog prone to hot spots is often the same dog dealing with itchy paws or ear trouble that keeps coming back. That's part of why steady omega-3s in the bowl tend to mean fewer hot spots over a season, not just a faster recovery from the one you're looking at now, since they support the skin as a whole rather than just this one patch. Hot spots are also one of the most common reasons dogs land in a clinic once the weather turns warm and humid, especially in dogs with heavier coats. So if this is the first time, it's unlikely to be the last. If your dog's hot spots keep circling back to the same season every year, that pattern alone is worth mentioning at your next regular checkup, because a vet who knows it's recurring can look for the underlying trigger instead of just treating whatever shows up that week. The kitchen fix handles what's in front of you tonight. Finding the root cause is what eventually gets you off this cycle entirely. Tell me in the comments where on your dog the hot spots tend to show up. The ear, a hip, the tail, since the pattern usually points straight at what's causing it. And if this was useful, subscribing means you've got it ready the next time that spot shows up again. And a like just helps another owner staring at the same raw patch tonight find this too. Add the sardines to the bowl tonight. Clean and dab a thin layer of coconut oil on the spot and keep that tongue away from it for a few days. That's genuinely most of what it takes. Give your dog's ear a scratch from me tonight. They've had a rough few days.